1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
25 Russian soldiers were captured by soldiers of the Russian Volunteer Corps during raids in the Belgorod and Kursk regions of Russia. RVC showed a video with soldiers of the Federation Army and invited the governor of the Belgorod region Gladkov to a meeting to hand over the prisoners to him.
При каких обстоятельствах ты попал в плен?
Under what circumstances were you captured? While performing a mining task, our vehicle came under fire. Those who went with me, they all were killed. I was the only one left alive, and I was taken prisoner.
There is no official information about the losses of the Russian army yet. According to the information voiced by Alexei Baranovsky, a fighter of the Freedom of Russia Legion, volunteers wounded or eliminated at least 24 servicemen of the Russian Ministry of Defense. To minimize civilian casualties, volunteers call on the regional authorities to evacuate residents of the Belgorod and Kursk regions and also unilaterally cease fire, warning the locals in advance. Thus, as of the morning of March the 15th, more than 7,000 cars used the humanitarian corridor in the Belgorod region and more than 600 cars in the Kursk region. On the night of March the 15th, the 16th, the Russian volunteers organized a humanitarian corridor again.
The Russian army breaks into the houses of civilians who have left, places their temporary, as it is said, bases there. That is, we see they are now trying as much as possible to hide behind the backs of the remaining civilians who have not left yet. This, of course, complicates our work, but nevertheless, our aerial reconnaissance is monitoring their actions very closely. We understand their tactics perfectly. Indeed, to hide behind civilians as a human shield.
Meanwhile, Russian propaganda has already verbally destroyed the Russian Volunteer Corps, the Freedom of Russia Legion and the Siberian Battalion several times, liberation from the Putin regime as a demonstration of the inability of the Russian authorities to protect their own borders. It is extremely disadvantageous for Putin, especially in the midst of the so-called presidential elections. By the way, for the first day and a half of voting, the turnout in the Belgorod region, according to the Regional Election Commission, allegedly amounted to 73%.
Твои выборы давно превратились в полный фарс.
Your elections have long turned into a complete farce. Stop driving ordinary people to participate in your performance at polling stations under bombs and artillery shells. Even forced expression of will is impossible when there are air raid signals. You have long lost your legitimacy, and in the current circumstances, even the appearance of an electoral process has disappeared.
Population is not the priority of the Moscow authorities. That is why everyone from the mobilized to the prisoners is fighting against Ukraine, and the Russian border remains uncovered.
Resources are now on the Ukrainian front. In order to patch it up in the Belgorod region, the occupiers need to remove some frontline units and bring it there. In order to do so in Kursk, to bring another frontline unit, or to bring there some conscripts, some recruits during this raid, as we have already seen, are either captured or scattered in different directions, leaving their equipment behind.
In addition to tactical raids by Russian volunteers have a significant informational impact. They, as the only real opposition to the Kremlin, prove that armed resistance to the Moscow regime is possible and even effective. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Valeria Nekipelova, UATV News.